There are hedge fund managers making $1 million an hour. You know, it's crazy, right? It's money everywhere. It's money in everything. I want to help you. Start your business today. Come join my royal family. Subscribe to Casino Is the Name.
Hey, yo, what's going on? Right now you're watching Casino Is the Name, and today we're going to talk about the money, folks. That's basically what we talk about on this channel. We talk about real estate. We talk about hedge fund managers. We talk about football players. We talk about basically how to get to the money, how to protect the money, how to grow the money, how to find more money, how to open your mindset to a world of possibilities, right? And in this video, I wanted to talk to you guys about the difference between how rich people think and how poor people think. And yes, there is an actual difference. I was in a conversation with someone earlier today, and I realized that everything that they know about money is actually the exact opposite. And in case you don't know, I am an accountant. So, this has some grounds in education, but it's also, I have just some business experience. And I've been fortunate to be around people who had millions and millions of dollars, and they came from millions and millions of dollars, and their grandparents had millions and millions of dollars, and and so I've been fortunate to be around old money, but not how I came up. I didn't come up around these people who had these old money principles. I came up around people who had basically no money. I'm talking about rental center furniture. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was in my household. We had rental center furniture. You know what I'm saying? So we had everything backwards. And basically in this conversation, I realized that they literally were, the principles that they were using to move through life were the exact opposite of what they should have been thinking. I was in the military when I was a young airman, and there was a guy there who worked on the gate with me. We out there with, we got our firearm and everything like that, and we guarding the front gate. And so we would be out there, and we'd be basically talking about money. My first real world experience in a financial class outside of my sister was actually standing on the front gate guarding Robins Air Force Base. This is where my whole mindset about what I thought that I knew about money and actual learning about like building wealth changed. So I'm outside on this gate talking to this guy, and he's worked in corporate America. He's an older gentleman. He's worked in corporate America. He has some money. He has some experience. He has a bunch of real estate. And so we get outside and we're talking about this, and he's worked in corporate America. And he said that poor people always rent things they should buy, and they always buy things they should rent. And I didn't really quite understand what he meant, but he was like, somebody have like a Cadillac on like 20s and be driving to an apartment, and it was crazy that he said that, because I was thinking, well, I live in a townhouse, and yes, I was renting at the time. I'm like, I live in a townhouse, but what was crazy and that he probably didn't know was that I had a Cadillac, and I had not just 20s, it was sitting on 22s. All right. So I had this Cadillac sitting on 22s, driving to this place that I'm renting. And so I feel directly hit by his statement. Right. And so I'm like, please go further, because I need to know how other people see me. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. I was making like $70,000 a year as a 23, 24 years old. Man, I know what I'm doing. Like, what is he talking about? I got nice clothes. I got flat screen TVs. I got everything that I could think that I would ever want. And he said that real wealth may not, or real money may not be shown in necessarily a car. He was saying that there may be this guy who has an old Toyota Tercel from 1988, but is driving to a mansion or has 15 houses and has a bank account or a stock portfolio. And nobody had ever really talked to me about stock portfolios either. And I definitely did not have a house. And so as we continued to talk, I realized that the car depreciated in value, right? And yes, the house depreciated in value, but it actually went up. Well, it depreciates on your taxes, but it actually goes up in value. So I'm learning about, this is like my first real estate class, really. So he's teaching me about real estate, he's teaching me about all these things. And so in this process, I figured out that I have been buying something that I should have been renting, you know, or that I have been renting something that I should have been buying, right? And so we're doing exact opposite things. We're doing the exact opposite things. But it was also based on upbringing, right? Had I grew up with my mom buying houses, then maybe I would have been looking to buy a house when I moved out. But I grew up in an apartment in the city of Tallahassee, Florida. So I'm an inner city kid, right? Caught the city bus, the school bus picked us up in the projects when I changed schools. Like, I'm an inner city kid, right? So moving out where I come from, when we say, oh, we're gonna get our own place, we're not talking about a house. We're talking about getting an apartment. Every one of my friends, cousins, whatever, when they talk about getting their own place down in Florida, we're not really talking about going to buying a house or building a house like I did here. By the way, I'm here in my kitchen. I tend to use this space because the lighting is pretty good. Anyway, so like I'm thinking about buying an apartment or moving into an apartment, not buying an apartment, moving into an apartment. None of us were thinking, oh, you know, I'm gonna buy a house or build a house or anything like that. We're thinking maybe that's old people stuff, or maybe that's down the line, or maybe being a millennial, they're telling us to never buy a house. And that's crazy to me. I mean, it can make sense in certain situations, but that sounds crazy to me to think that people are telling other people, especially from my generation, that we should not buy houses. And yes, I'm a millennial, believe it or not. So anyway, so this guy's telling me all of these things and I'm like, yo, I gotta buy a house. And so he helps me actually find a house. Like he gives me so much game, man. I appreciate him still to this day. He tells me so much about what I need to do to get myself together in order to get a house. So that's what I do. I find me a house and I find out how much I can spend on one. And I found out it was actually cheaper to buy a house than most rents were, right? Like, I was paying around $700 or so a month. This is years ago, like 2004. No, was it 2004? 2009. So this is like 2009. So I was paying about $700 for a townhouse, 2-bedroom townhouse in Macon, Georgia. And I found a house and I didn't really know how much the mortgage was going to be, but I knew that if I bought a house below $75,000, then it would be kind of like a perfect situation for me. And so I ended up finding this house that had just been remodeled for $54,000. And when I pulled in, I saw how manicured the yard was, and I still didn't understand why it was only $54,000 when I was seeing houses that was like $80,000 that still needed like carpet to be put inside them and stuff like that. So anyway, I pulled in, I saw the pictures online, I called the realtor that was on the sign. They were like, we can't make it right now. So I called another one. I just went online, search, called another. He said, I'm gonna pull up. He pulled up. We go in and it is immaculate. And so I said, when I was on the phone with him, he said, are you sure you're interested in the property before I come out there because it's Sunday or whatever? I said, look, if it looked like it's supposed to look on the inside, I'm gonna make an offer today. And he was like, I'm on the way. So he pulled up. We walk in. It was perfect. I made an offer. And they actually wanted, I think, $53,000. I told them I'd pay them $54,000 because they still needed to fix something that might have cost like $500. I said, man, I give y'all $1,000. Y'all just get this stuff situated so that I can close, because I had to use a VA loan and they were not going to close on it as long as that stuff needed to be done. We got it done. I bought the house. My mortgage was only $405. And that was with taxes and insurance. So the actual mortgage on the loan was only $200, $205, $202, something like that. And so the rest of it was the taxes and insurance. It's crazy. So anyway, so fast forward to that, I began to just see things differently. And instead of buying liabilities, I decided that I would start buying assets. This is all before I ever went to school for accounting and became an accountant. I didn't really know a whole lot about assets and liabilities. You know, I used to hear people say it, but to actually understand it was very different. You know, the Robert Kiyosaki method, you know, all of that kind of stuff, Rich Dad, Poor Dad stuff. So I started learning about all this stuff, and I realized that a lot of people that I grew up around or that I grew up with, including my own parents, saw money very different from how the rich saw money. And, you know, they have this saying that says, a fool and his money will soon part. So it doesn't matter how much money I give you, if you still think poor, you're going to eventually end up poor. That's why so many football players, basketball players, I don't know what the number is. I don't know if it's like 70%, 90%, whatever it is, end up broke after like the first 3 or 5 years after playing. And it's basically they are still thinking as though they don't have it. They thinking like people who don't come from money. So they still have these bad money principles. And it is important to change the mindset, not only to acquire wealth, but to maintain wealth and to pass that wealth on. Because everything that I learned, I have to pass to my son, because eventually, no matter what I leave him, this is his house one day. No matter what I leave him, he will lose it if he doesn't learn the right kind of things, or he may lose. Some people just, you know, they just still get by through life. But there are a lot of times where family members lose their grandparents' houses and things like that for lack of paying taxes. It happened to my own family. We lost my grandfather's house. My mom's side, not paying taxes on the house or whatever. I don't know. I was younger, so, you know. Anyway, but it happens. And in order to change those things, we have to change the way we think and the way we process information. And so this video is basically just so that you guys can maybe open your mind to start thinking, not everything that your parents may have told you about money may actually be true. And that in order to change your financial situation, you have to start doing some things different if the things that you see that you've been doing are not working for you. Anytime that you're thinking, if you know anybody who's ever said, you know, I'm just trying to make it the next week. I'm just trying to, you know, I can't even think that far. I'm just as far as I can think is like my next check. I'm just living check to check. Whatever that is, that mentality is a poor person's mentality. And it's not to disrespect anybody. And see, you can also have $100 million. You can have $100 million and still think like a poor person. Thinking like a poor person will eventually, if you don't do right, it would eventually make you poor. Believe me, I know people who've had $100 million and they ain't got 100, you know, they got nowhere close to that. You know, they've lost houses and cars, you know what I'm saying? So if you continue to think like a poor person, then you won't ever really get ahead. Rich people think year to year, 1 to 5 year increments. Really rich people think, okay, so they say very poor people think day to day. They don't know what they're going to eat tomorrow. Poor people think week to week, bi-weekly. Middle class thinks monthly to, you know, 6 months windows or whatever. So whenever somebody looks up how much they got to pay per month, they want to know, or how much they got to pay per week. They just really like calculate how much they make per month. Even like the way you calculate your check, you know, you get paid this every 2 weeks. So you combine it and say, okay, every month I make, you know, say if you get $1,500 every 2 weeks, then you say, oh, I get $3,000 a month. So you're thinking like a middle class person. If you're thinking, okay, well, I make this much per every 2 weeks. Multiply that times 52 weeks. Times 26 weeks for the year. Then I make this for the year. If you're thinking that way, now you're starting to think like the rich people because they plan a year out in advance, 1 to 5 year increments. So they say, okay, I make this much a year. Now I got to subtract how much I make everything else. So rich people plan that way. Very rich people, they plan in 5 to 10 year increments. They plan out in decades. They may be thinking 10, 20, 30 years in advance. They say, okay, well, I'm going to take this money, I'm going to put it here. And so that's how they think. Anyway, right now you're watching Casino Is the Name, man, to change the way you think. And I promise you, you will get you some money. And yeah, hit like, subscribe, share this video if you find any value in it. I'm getting calls after call. I got to go. Anyway, it is time for me to slide. I'll hop.
There are hedge fund managers making $1 million an hour. You know, it's crazy, right? It's money everywhere. It's money in everything. I want to help you. Start your business today. Come join my royal family. Subscribe to Casino is the name.